Hello there, good evening ladies and gentlemen, this is L24 Midnight News and coming up next in our news program. Algeria and China signed a new 5-year plan for comprehensive strategic cooperation between the two countries in various fields. Coalition of Western Sahara lawyers filed Tuesday 6 new complaints against Morocco before the UN Committee in Geneva. While US confirms communication channels still open with Russia, Ukraine denies Western pressure to soften stance on talks with Kremlin. United States voters across the country are lining up to cast their ballots Tuesday in federal, state and local elections that could shape the US political landscape for the coming years. Starting from Algeria said Tuesday it has signed the second 5-year strategic cooperation pact with China. A foreign ministry statement said that the plan aims to strengthen bilateral cooperation in different fields, and it was signed by Algerian Foreign Minister Mr. Ramtan Lamamra and his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. Nabil Khazini in this report.
The strategic cooperation pact between Algeria and China is now prolonged for another term. The Algerian Foreign Ministry announced that Algeria has signed a strategic cooperation plan with China that extends to 2026 and includes fields such as economy, energy, space and agriculture.
On this occasion, Algeria expresses its deep satisfaction at the high level reached in the Algerian-Chinese friendly, cooperative, solidarity and partnership relations with the People's Republic of China and looks forward to making more achievements in the future with this important and strategic partner.
Algeria confirmed that the signing of the second 5-year plan for the comprehensive strategic partnership between Algiers and Beijing reflects the common will of the two sides to strengthen Algerian-Chinese relations and enhance them to the highest levels in a way that meets the aspirations of the two friendly countries.
Taking the implementation of the 5-year plan as an opportunity, China is willing to work with Algeria to consolidate the traditional friendship, strengthen the aligning of development strategies, and jointly promote the building of a community with a shared future for mankind.
China and Algeria signed the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Agreement in 2014 to boost economic cooperation. Since 2013, China has maintained the lead in the volume of exports to Algeria, taking the place of France. This turned Beijing into Algeria's first trading partner. Algeria has officially applied to join the BRICS economic group, a move Beijing has welcomed, stressing that Algeria is a great developing country and a representative of emerging economies.
Same line of thought, Algeria and China have traditionally strong relations. This is reflected in the mutual connections between the two countries and the strong cooperation in different fields between Algeria and China. In the field of economy, the Russian Foreign Ministry welcomed Algeria's announcement that it had officially submitted its application to join the BRICS group. The special envoy for the Russian president to the Middle East and Africa, Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov, expressed Moscow's welcome to Algeria's desire to join the BRICS group, describing the bilateral relation as excellent and based on mutual trust. It is worth mentioning that China has also welcomed Algeria's membership in the BRICS, according to Wang Yi, Chinese foreign minister, who talked in New York on Saturday and stressed that Algeria is a great developing country and representative of emerging economics.
We have excellent relations with Algeria and maintain a trust-based dialogue. This issue is being considered with the framework of the collective work in BRICS. We welcome the aspiration of our friends, partners, and those who have the same vision than us to join the work within such formats as BRICS, SEO, as well as other formats where we actively work.
Algerian Minister of Labour Youssef Sharfa and his Tunisian counterpart signed a protocol for joint cooperation in the field of labour and professional relations between the two countries. A statement from the Algerian Ministry of Labour stated that the protocol allows strengthening cooperation in the fields of labour, professional relations, occupational health and safety, and exchanging work-related legislation and studies, as well as providing the jobless and limit unorganized and authorized employment. A coalition of lawyers and non-governmental organizations on Tuesday filed 6 new complaints against Morocco before the United Nations Committee Against Torture in Geneva, which demands a particular release of all Sahrawi prisoners convicted on the basis of confessions obtained under suffering. The international human rights organizations demanded also prisoners should be compensate for damages sustained. And to talk more about this matter, previously we have found Mr. Mawloud Saeed, who is a Sahrawi representative in the United States. We asked him about, although the Committee Against Torture has condemned Morocco on several occasions for its violation, but it constantly refuses to comply with the decisions of committee, and he has this to say.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me, especially to speak about this important issue, the issue of the human rights and the violation of the human rights by the occupation forces in the Western Sahara. It's a fact that from day one, the Moroccan policy in Western Sahara was one of repression. We have a large number of Sahrawis who have disappeared and they are unaccounted for, plus, of course, the ones who are in jail and the ones who died in jail. This is, as you mentioned, there is this position already expressed by the Committee Against Torture, which is not the first time, by the way, but Morocco has, as usual, he doesn't listen, he doesn't care about any human rights organization. He disregards any statement, any report. And so, unfortunately, this is the sad situation. Unless the international community, not just the NGOs, but also the governments, they take this issue serious and to press Morocco, Morocco will just sit comfortably and will keep on violating the right of the Sahrawi people with the daily repression in the territory and politically by denying the right of the people to self-determination.
Mr. Mawloud also stated that by filing these complaints, Morocco will be in front of an open scene of its violations.
By filing complaints, of course, this is a way of pressuring Morocco. But unfortunately, the United Nations, I don't think they will do anything to advance on this issue because already there were several attempts to have the United Nations Security Council mandate the MINURSO to monitor the human rights, and at every time that's attempted, the Security Council, obstructed by the French in particular, the MINURSO was deprived from exercising this monitoring. So, but we hope that this complaint will lead to more complaints so that at the end, the international community and in particular the Security Council can take action because we believe that only the Security Council can really impact on the Moroccan position.
U.S. voters cast ballots today in midterm elections that will determine control of the House and the Senate as candidates try to gather last-minute support. More details with our friend and our colleague Mohammed Khatal.
Democrats are trying to cling to their majorities in Congress for the final 2 years of President Joe Biden's first term. Republicans are favored to win control of the House, while the race for Senate control appears tight. President Biden had a busy weekend campaigning for Democrats in tight races in New York and Pennsylvania, where former President Barack Obama joined to help Senate candidate John Fetterman in his bid to beat GOP opponent Dr. Mehmet Oz. Voters have already cast more than 42 million ballots in the midterm elections as of Monday evening. Election officials and U.S. prosecutors are keeping a close watch on the polls for any signs of voter intimidation, including in 24 states where the Justice Department sent poll monitors. Opinion polls revealed that democracy, healthcare, abortion, and climate change are top on the voters' list of priorities. Former President Donald Trump said he will make a big announcement on November 15 at his Mar-a-Lago resort, where he is widely expected to launch his 2024 presidential campaign. This came as Pentagon Press Secretary Brigadier General Pat Ryder told reporters he would not speculate about what the future might bring, stressing that U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has not spoken with the White House about potentially leaving his post after the midterm election, but is rather focused on leading the Pentagon.
Idris, so to answer your first question, no. And again, I'm not going to speculate about what the future may bring. The Secretary's focus right now is on leading the Department of Defense and ensuring the national security of our nation.
It's worth noting that the winner of the midterm elections may not be known until later this week.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has confirmed that the channels of communication between Washington and Moscow are functional. The news came days after White House brushed off the reports that Russia and Sullivan were in talks in order to avoid a nuclear escalation. The White House also stressed the need to ensure that lines of communications are not cut off.
Quite some time since there's been a telephone conversation, let alone a face-to-face meeting between the two presidents. But as I have said repeatedly, we have channels to communicate with the Russian Federation at senior levels. We have done so when it's been necessary to clarify potential misunderstandings and try to reduce risk and reduce the possibility of catastrophe like the potential use of nuclear weapons. We have done that. We have not been specific about what those channels are, although we do occasionally in some circumstances indicate conversations that take place, like the one between our defense minister or our Secretary of Defense and their defense minister and our chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and their chief of defense. But we believe that at that kind of basic level of communication, we have channels that can continue to operate effectively.
In same line of thought, Ukraine doubled down on its tough stance on negotiations with Russia amid U.S. midterm elections, saying talks could only resume once the Kremlin leaves all Ukrainian territory. Hassan Barkan.
Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu visited the command center of the joint task forces deployed for the special military operation in Ukraine. The visit came amid media speculations of potential negotiations between Kiev and Moscow, which refused categorically the precondition of restoring Ukraine's borders in order to have a dialogue. As crucial midterm elections in the United States are held, the results of which could affect the Washington support for Kiev, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has urged Americans to maintain unwavering unity until peace is restored in Ukraine.
I call on you to maintain unwavering unity as it is now until that very day when we all hear those important words we have been dreaming of. Until we hear that peace has finally been restored. Democracies must not stop on their way to the victory.
This comes as the United States Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, is on a visit to the capital of Ukraine, Kiev, where she renewed Washington's commitment to the defense of the European countries in the context of the war, regardless of the results in the midterm elections.
As winter approaches, we are very focused on Ukraine's energy needs. Russia continues to attack Ukraine's energy infrastructure, but we refuse to let Ukrainians freeze or starve because of Russia's brutal, unnecessary, illegal, and inhumane war.
Since Russia announced the annexation of Ukrainian territory at the end of September, Zelensky has decreed that Kyiv would never negotiate with Moscow as long as Vladimir Putin remains Russian president. Kyiv officials have repeated that position in recent days, while saying that Kyiv would be willing to negotiate with Putin's future successor.
Indian Foreign Minister met his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on Tuesday in Moscow for talks that focus on prospective energy projects. At a news conference following the meeting, the Indian Foreign Minister said that India will continue buying Russian oil as it is beneficial for the country.
It is our fundamental obligation to ensure that the Indian consumer has the best possible access on the most advantageous terms to international markets. And in that respect, quite honestly, we have seen that the India-Russia relationship has worked to advantage. So if it works to my advantage, I would like to keep that going.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said on Tuesday that Ankara conveyed its expectations to see concrete steps from Sweden to fulfill anti-terrorism obligations under a deal clearing bids by a Nordic country and neighboring Finland to join NATO. In a joint news conference after a meeting in Ankara, Sweden's Prime Minister said that he understood Turkey's fight against terrorism and vowed to fulfill security commitments. It is worth mentioning that Sweden and Finland applied to join NATO in May in response to Russia's military operation in Ukraine, but Turkey, which is a NATO member, raised objections. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Monday praised Armenia and Azerbaijan for taking courageous steps toward a durable peace. This comes as foreign ministers from the two South Caucasus nations that have clashed repeatedly over the control of Nagorno-Karabakh region met in Washington.
The United States is committed to the peace negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Direct dialogue is the best way to a truly durable peace, and we are very pleased to support that. The United States strongly supports the sovereignty and territorial independence of both Armenia and Azerbaijan.
14 Palestinians, including teenagers, were arrested overnight from Monday to Tuesday by Zionist occupation forces in the occupied West Bank in Palestinian news agency Wafa reported, quoting a local source in a statement relied by Wafa news agency that Palestinian prisoners club said that Zionist occupation forces stormed several areas in Ramallah and Al-Bira, arresting several Palestinians, including teenagers, while another teenager was arrested in Silwan, south of Al-Aqsa Mosque. In Africa, Sudan security forces fired tear gas at thousands of demonstrators calling for civilian rule and justice for protesters killed since last year's coup. The tear gas was fired at demonstrators who were heading toward the presidential palace in the capital Khartoum in the latest rally against the October coup led by the army chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. French President Emmanuel Macron will officially announce on Wednesday the end of the Barkhane anti-terrorist operation in the Sahel, a little less than 3 months after the withdrawal of French soldiers from Mali. The Élysée Palace said that the announcement will have no impact on the French military presence in the region. Some 3,000 French troops are still deployed in Niger, Chad, and Burkina Faso. Gunmen in Nigeria kidnapped at least 80 people and killed 11 others in separate attacks in the northwest, in the latest attacks by armed gangs that have been preying on the villages, schools, and highways. Zamfara state is one of the worst hits by the armed gangs, known locally as bandits, who terrorize and abduct for ransom, adding to growing insecurity ahead of presidential vote in February. The education minister in Uganda said that the country will shorten the school term by 2 weeks to reduce daily contact amongst students and help curb the spread of Ebola. According to the Uganda Health Ministry, the country had recorded a total of 135 confirmed cases and 53 deaths last Monday. The United Nations affirmed that the number of people in Sri Lanka needing urgent humanitarian help has doubled to 3.4 million, warning a worsening food crisis in the South Asian island nation that declared itself bankrupt in July amid unprecedented economic crisis. UN agencies working in Sri Lanka in a joint statement said that they had raised $79 million, but the increase in number of poor people meant an additional $70 million was needed. To this end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. For more updates, you can follow our social media platform as well as our 24 official website. For now, good night.